All right, good peoples. Let's jump in here to Tesla and Tesla. So, what happened? Well, it was a bad day for a lot of tech stuff. A lot of tech stuff got beat up in the markets. However, Tesla was up 0.29 and Tesla was up 0.42%. So, that kind of bucked the trend. So they didn't put any trades on. However, there was a purchase of 275,000. So I think the bigger funds, and just when they're unsure of the marketplace, they're just putting that capital and keeping it in cash, right? And then they'll figure out what they want to do. So their cash position for yesterday was up. Well, that seems like a lot, 32 million. So maybe something 41328. Oh yeah, I got a problem with that number. That number is 99,240. Yeah, that seemed like, why would that be so big? 163027. All right, I'm not going to worry about it. I'll get that corrected and take your time on that. So it was 275. They did not put any trades on. So how do we stand? Let's take a look at weeklies first off. So they fortunately they rolled out of one. And so you look at this one up at 282. Yeah, it's way up there, but it's now got 6 trading days, right? And with earnings coming, assume they do earnings on the 23rd after market, then I think we'll be in a situation where if their earnings are perceived as good and they beat and so forth, then we could certainly get up there, but at least they've got some room to run. These 275 this week looks fabulous with a 10.66% rise to sort of protect it. So here we are again at the 248.50 and the 1664, right? The current close. Volatility is pretty flat. Again, whenever you want to see something, take a look here, right? This tells us the 52-week low and high. So I try to keep these updated. Tesla, because of the reverse split early in this year, I think in February, and that's why you have such a drastic change there, because technically the old price with the reverse 2-for-1 is like $40, right? So within the range here, it's 36.96 and 12.72. So you can kind of tell where we are. And then same thing with the IV. We're in the higher mode there. We're certainly in the higher mode for testing highs. So Tesla looks pretty good, actually, to me. I mean, if you measure most everything that I'm doing my videos on, most everything's down. I'm not completely done, but Coney, Misty, even GDXY. So let's go over and talk about what we've got on holdings, because that really dials this in. So the first thing I want to do is, remember I was talking yesterday, they need to take this off the table. Even though there's very little opportunity for change, I would just say go in and buy this thing for 1 cent, right? Or 2 cents. And you can do that after about an hour. As soon as an hour time on Friday, even if it's trading in 252, 255, just take it off the table. And then I would wait till a little bit later in the day to write my next week call. This one, unfortunately, even though we've captured it small, right, with the 1,000 versus this 31,000, right? That's going to be a sweet situation collecting, 17,500, 600,000. I mean, even if you paid 0.045, you would only have to spend 139, but there's no reason they can't pay a penny for this thing. So kudos on that one. And this one is reasonable. Earnings is going to tell us everything, right? But the fact that we have almost 50% of it and we're trotting along. Now on the synthetic, um, we are gaining a little bit more as we go, right? We're down to 29 million on the loss because they wrote a 260 and a 265. This was more of a placeholder. This is the bulk of the contract. So that just keeps coming down. And I add these two together and it's 31. But down here, I'm just tracking the big guy and showing you the relative value. Um, so we want this to, we ultimately want this to be up here. We want it in a positive number. So where did we close? We closed at 1664. And what's fair value? 1666. So real close there. Again, I'm very bullish on Tesla. That assumes the markets don't correct on us. Um, and I just read another cycle guy that I don't really believe his stuff 100%, but I thought it was worthwhile because kind of an interesting take. His take is we melt up from here, that we've got, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25% more to go, but his take is we melt up, and that melt up can be 2 months, 3 months, up to 6 months, and we go to these pretty, if we go up 25, 30% on all the indexes, that becomes a long-term top. He's saying an 82 to 2024, early 2025. So something like a 40-year top, and then we trade down initially hard, 40, 50%. We go in a deflationary cycle. The Fed has to pump, they pump 5 trillion during COVID, so it'll pump 19, 20 trillion, and that will help sort of bail out the people that are just really hurting, and that the markets will, different sectors then will move up, things like precious metals, things like commodities, things like stores of wealth in Bitcoin, but that a lot of other things will struggle. Do I buy into all of this stuff? No, but I always find it fascinating. I watch and listen to a lot of market forecasters. I have some cycle guys that I certainly believe more in, and not this particular guy, but I thought it's always interesting. He's been calling for a melt up and a bust, and then a kind of get back to normal, but sideways in most of the end. He's been calling it for 3 years. But could it happen? Absolutely. We'll see. Um, I certainly hope it's not the opposite. I hope we don't go out and get a 20% pullback in the next 2 or 3 months. And again, I'm not forecasting, I'm not trying to create fear, but anybody that owns anything needs to think, what if? What would I do if the markets pull back? You're a young person and you're throwing money in your 401k, you just keep on trucking. If you're the guy who went in and over leveraged and you only got 8K to your name, you put it all in a high risk stock and you use margin, yeah, you better be worried. A 5% thing is going to send you into a margin call and lose most of your capital. So I always bring these things up for people because anybody, if you just chase these high yield funds, I mean, remember, they can get capped on the upside and they can still participate in, 90, 95% of the downside. You get paid some income while it's going down. So anything that says the word stock is vulnerable, right? Now, you can buy some stocks that go the opposite of the market, right? They go up when the market goes down. So while the market's treading and moving up slightly, they're going to decline, but you think about them as insurance. Okay, let me dive into what matters here. Let's go talk about I know we need to do the synthetic, so fair value. Um, you see the synthetic, so these. So I did talk about these, 99.21 for this week. Awesome. Let's go look at what that looks like in payouts. Here we go. So we've collected, it hasn't changed, $1.53 in total income. There's a 93-cent loss on our short call. But guys, kudos, we should win. I see no way we don't win the 17.7, whether it's 17,680 or 17,600,000. We're going to win that. And if we do another situation where we do a couple of those, then we've really wiped out another dollar, if you will, each, almost a dollar, another 70 or 80 cents with two weekly wins. And this thing, wouldn't you love to see Tesla pay $2? I think now by adding more, it's in the $1.50 range. But just to recap, you guys, I promised you a video on why I'm so bullish Tesla. That it really has nothing to do with YIELDMAX or anything else. As a matter of fact, I have a small percentage in Tesla as compared to Tesla. And at times I'll deploy in a TSLL, or I think it's TLSD. There's a new Rex 2X. I have that list, and I have a video coming out on all of the leverage funds, because there's a time to own those, and both ways. There's a time to own them for protection on a 2X bear, and there's time to own them when we're going to get capped and the market's moving. But you kind of got to know when to deploy that. So that's what I got for you. Tesla is pretty positive. I love it. I love to see them performing. Um, could this thing go back down? People ask me and write all the time, well, can Bitcoin, is YBit gonna reverse split? Is Tesla gonna do another reverse split? Guys, it's a simple equation. It comes down to what is the underlying gonna do? If Tesla is going to go back to $100, yeah, there's a chance that you could reverse split the 16. If it gets down to 8 or 7 again, it would reverse split. But I got one for you. What about when Tesla goes to 500? What's Tesla going to look like? Well, part of it is, how does it go to 500? Does it go up 5%, 8% a week? We can handle that usually. If it has days where it goes up for 15% a week, we're going to get capped and we're not going to participate, but we're not going to decay, right? That synthetic is going to keep us at least even. So you have a situation where if this thing goes to 500 on the stock, which I think it easily could do, assuming the markets don't go sideways on us, then, Tesla can get back to $30. It's not improbable at all. I just think, for me personally, it's probably an 80-20, 70-30 distribution of the income versus the underlying, and at times go into a 2X on the underlying. So that's what I got for you, peoples. I think it's good news. That's the kind of stuff I want to bring to you besides just reporting on the YIELDMAX. All right, guys, have a great one. Not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Bye for now.